Okay, hopefully we're good. I gotta check. Picture looks good. See if audio is any good. We're live. I'm working, working here in the learning center. It's getting closer and closer to winter time, so I need to make sure that this area is ready. And it's been kind of a mess throughout the whole of summertime. Just checking audio. Oh, it looks like there's a few people here. Let me just double check myself just to be sure. I think it's good. Can't hear it. Oh, great audio, says Maureen. Carrie and Sue, hello. Yep, that's good. Sounds good on my phone. Okay, guys. Let me just pause this so I don't use up the bandwidth required for doing a live stream. I'm back in the learning. We're doing a lot of learning lately. Uh, Learning center. Um, I mean, in general, this is sort of a desk with a whole bunch of really cool stuff on it. You guys have seen it before. We talk about hooves, and we've got all kinds of bones and stuff like that. I'm cleaning up in here, and I've had quite a few questions in regard to hooves, and I was kind of working on this. I thought, maybe since I haven't put anything up in the last 4 days or so, just due to sheer uh, busyness. The weekend was great. We had fantastic weather. I mean, pretty good weather, not fantastic, but pretty good weather. And lessons and trimming and cleaning up and organizing and all that kind of stuff. It rained like crazy yesterday, and then today has been kind of off and on. It's sort of sunny now, but it has been questionable for half the day, which has led me to be being inside. To where we're also in the future, I'm going to be here. I don't know whether you guys are going to be here, but I'm going to be here talking about all kinds of things to do with horse health and training and stuff. And up on the board here, somehow I'll also be using material that will augment all the things that I want to talk about because I get so many questions. Okay, let's see. Actually, say hello to everyone. Hello, Terry and Danielle. Sue, Carrie, and Maureen. Hello, everybody. Thanks for popping in general, I do these live streams maybe so that people can ask questions if they have any. But it's actually a very easy way to put out some quick information onto the channel without me having to do, video and then edit and then upload and any, corrections that I need to make or add in stuff. Um, so this is a very easy way to give you guys an update about what's going on, what's going to be happening. What are we at the middle? We're not even at the middle of October. So it's getting cold out though. Weather is changing. And so some stuff won't be outside as much as it was during the summertime, um, except maybe in the covered area because we get an awful lot of rain here. We live in a rainforest. So what are you going to do? Now, I had a pile of questions that I definitely wanted to get back to because I've been getting quite a few comments and I just don't quite have enough time to get to all of them. I do try to get to the ones where people do ask questions, but a lot of them are just friendly, nice, complimentary, wonderful things. And I do try to respond to everybody. I know some people say, don't bother, it's okay, you don't have to respond, but um, it's worth it. If anybody's going to take the time to say something on here, it doesn't matter how many hundreds there are. I think that is well worth it to say thank you. So to everybody who hasn't heard back from me yet and you're wondering what's going on, thank you. Thank you for all your compliments and kind words and great words about all the horses that are here. Everybody's doing great. I did do a video this morning and I'm going to follow it up with a couple of things. But I'm cleaning up here and I thought, well, maybe I should get some answers out in case anybody's kind of wondering what's happening. In fact, I had, and I say it in the video that I did today, but there's a lady on Facebook that had been wondering what's going on. It's been 4 days since the last horsey check. It might be 4 days for you guys, but man, every day, even from here, I can see Peggy and baby just sort of standing around. Everybody's getting fuzzier. It is getting a little colder. A little bit fuzzier, a little bit softer. They're adorable. What are you gonna do? So yeah. Anyways, questions about hooves. I had a few questions about hooves, and some of them are kind of involved. Some of them are kind of advanced. And before I even bother, I get into. I'll draw a few from memory. Um, and I had a really good question that I get asked. A, I don't know about a lot, but once in a while I'll get asked a particular this particular question. And it says, what certifications don't you or how did the question go? Don't you want a certified farrier to do the trimming of your horse? And it led to a little bit of a discussion about how I feel. And then I was asked, well, where did you learn? How have you become a professional in the area? And it's a difficult answer. And I know there's quite a few of you that watch this channel, I don't know about right now, but I know there's quite a few that watch this channel. And you might watch this video and you might think that you're sort of in this group as well, of people that want to take care of their own horses and learn about what it means to take care of your horses with hoof care. So, everybody feeds their horse. Well, most people, I guess. Let's just assume everybody on this channel feeds their horses, waters their horses, walks their horses, rides their horses, maybe even trains their horses and whatnot. Hoof care, veterinary care has always been one of those things that many people are uh, resistant to sort of get into because it's a big deal. You've got to be professional. You've got to be certified. You must have gone to school. You must have, a certified farrier who's trained you for a really long time and all that kind of things. Those are very traditional way of going about um, this kind of work. And in some countries, I believe in the UK, you actually have to be properly licensed to trim your own horse's hoofs. In North America, none of that. Um, in fact, even the schooling system is very lax in that regard. Not for veterinarians. Veterinarians are very different. You must go to school, you must pass, you must take a bunch of tests to become a farrier, which isn't really a recognized or certifiable item to get work. Nobody. I don't think I've seen anybody. Yeah, never. Have I ever seen somebody say to somebody, "Can I please see your certificate of completion of of a course in farriership or trimming or whatever?" It just doesn't happen. Nobody ever asks. Actually, the only thing that I've ever seen that was a good question in regards to becoming a farrier or trimmer or something like that, somebody said, "Do you have to have insurance to do it?" Because there's obviously plenty of horses out there that end up going lame after a trim, after a shoeing, after some kind of foot care, doesn't matter what it is, and whether or not somebody can come along and say it's the farrier's fault. And that kind of stuff is super dodgy and gray and weird. And nobody really knows, but it never happens. You never hear about people getting sued for wrecking a horse. People just go find some other farrier, some other trimmer. Um, I don't even think veterinarians really receive a lot of that. I'd have to talk to my vet and a couple others that I know and see what the stats are on that kind of thing. I don't actually know, but I've never heard of it. I've never heard of anybody suing a vet, suing a farrier or trimmer because they think that whatever they did wrecked their horse. Um, so the professional aspect of being certified or being educated or going to school or learning from somebody who's an expert. So then you got to determine, well, how did that person become an expert? Who recognizes that they are an expert? Well, here in North America, nobody does. It is by honor system of some sorts. It's kind of strange, but it's an excellent question. If you have your own horses, you kind of say, well, how do I know if this person's any good? How do I know who I hired is any good? How do I know who I've hired for the last 5 years is any good? Kind of thing. So a lot of doubts about that. Um, okay, let's see. This is a big deal. Oh, Danielle, you didn't even notice I was offline for 4 days. Okay, that's okay. We're all busy. I barely noticed that I'm off for 4 days. Somebody did say 4 days. I was like, yeah, I guess it's been 4 days. Wow. Um, Carrie asks, when is Gracie going to get her boot off for good, or did I miss it? You did not miss it. Um, I had actually just checked on the weekend to see where she was at. Um, and because I had some time that I was, obviously I've been trimming horses. So I had some time that I was thinking, well, what should I do? But it hasn't quite been the amount of time that I think is good to leave that thing on, because I know what I'm doing on the next trim. I've already looked at it. I've already taken the pictures. I've already established what I'm going to do in the next trim. And I know how much I feel like I want to have grow down before I do that. Doing that with a boot on is really beneficial. I'm going to do a whole series of videos about hooves. I'm going to go into some in-depth stuff, and I mean, it's hard to really kind of put it out here on here on the live channel. This is a free YouTube channel, but it's going to be for pay. I'm going to sell a series of videos that goes in depth talking about a lot of hoof stuff. I think it's finally time. I've had a lot of people bugging me, not in a bad way, but in a good way, say you really need to get this information out there. I mean, because just down here on the table, we've got all kinds of material that I'm constantly using. We're talking about boots. We're talking about the bone structure. We're talking about um, gluing, booting. Carrie, you got a great question. Am I done? No, I'm not done with Gracie. I hope that this is the last time I have to boot her. I believe it's going to be the last time based on what I did see. I've not taken it off yet. That should be coming in the next, within the week, a week, within a week or the week. I guess it's about the same because it's Tuesday. So um, soon, yeah. And then, I mean, she's not hard up for having a boot on. She seems to be fine and running around like crazy, having fun. But it would be nice to just have her normal. So I agree with you. Just Tina Marie with a wave. Hello. Any horse boarding advice for Western? Horse boarding advice for Western? What does that mean? Okay, so yeah, on to the other thing. Um, Danielle says, it's true. No one asked. They just want to see past work. Well, I did. Um, so there, okay, so I think I've, I think I've gone a little bit wide of a range. The question was, to me, um, what makes you, uh, I don't want to use the word certified because it actually doesn't really apply. What makes you qualified to trim horses? Why are you trimming your horses? How do you know you're being careful enough? Um, because it's sometimes can be quite subjective. You'll go and ask somebody what they think of their horse's trim, and they think it's really great, and you look at it and you think that's not great. That's not good. That's very bad. That's bad trim. Um, and so that subjectiveness has to be removed from the equation. You must, as an owner or as somebody who wants to get into hoof care, where somebody's going to ask you one day, well, what makes you think that you know how to trim your horse's hooves? You have to answer that question, especially if you plan on working on anybody else's horse's hooves, or they're going to ask you to come work on their horse. Um, and if you don't go to school, I didn't go to school. There's no school that I went to because there isn't a school to go to for this work. Um, Objectively, I can say that the farrier school, the one farrier school that we have, um, barely touches on the skeletal system or the biological system of the horse, outside of not making them bleed because of the nails that get put in. Um, it's not talked. I know from talking. I've never been. I didn't go to it, so I'm not speaking from firsthand. But I'm speaking from talking to other people, and I do recall talking to the teacher at one of the conventions I went, one of the clinics, or is a big thing. It was a big place, and of course I myself go out and get hooves from the place that collects dead horses and stuff, and I talk to them as well. So I've sort of backed up. I've tried to take the subjective out and put in the objective and say, okay, I've talked to this person, this person, this person. From my understanding, they do not go and get cadaver feed anymore. It means they do not shoe or test on cadavers in school. They do not do dissections, and they would have a rudimentary understanding of the skeletal structure for sure. Um, but there's no real hands-on to really understand the how and why. And instead, it's primarily metalwork. So again, not my firsthand experience. These are all things that I've heard. So it does become sort of anecdotal or third person. But based on how many people I've talked to, I judge it to be true. So take that for what it is. And that's just locally here. So wherever you live on the planet, anywhere in North America, or I mean, I guess we could talk around the world, but I think most of the audience from North America, Australia, UK, um, and what else is? I remember looking at my analytics. I thought, oh, that's an interesting country. Anyways, so you have to then say, okay, well, why do I trim my own horses? And it actually leads into a sort of a long story, but the short story is that I don't know of anybody that trims horses correctly. And that's a bold statement to make, I suppose, because I certainly haven't seen everybody out there. I mean, there's plenty of perfectly good horses out there that are going around just fine, not presenting as lame. I don't want any of my horses shod. I am not the type to have my horses with shoes on. So I'm already sort of moving away from the traditional farrier that might be out there. And I ended up actually sort of latching onto a veterinarian who took himself through veterinarian school by being a farrier. And when he became more and more of a veterinarian, he became more and more pro barefoot. So he ended up doing this clinic that I went to and paid money for. It was a real clinic. It was a real thing. You go and you go to a class. And we did a full day of dissections and understanding the ligaments, tendons, bones, how the hoof capsule works, frog bar, all that stuff. And it just, from there, I just took off. Now, as I said, there is no school other than maybe veterinarian school that I could go and pick up this material. And if you do go to veterinarian school, well, unfortunately, you got to learn about everything else. You got to learn about the well, everything to do with a horse, obviously, including surgery and all that kind of stuff. And that's not something that I want to do. I mean, if I could maybe, but anyways, that's outside of the scope. But veterinarian school would not be for me, for what I want to do, let alone be able to afford it, or take the time for it. And it's across the country, so I can't even go. So not an option. So in such a case, do you just say, well, I guess I'll just trust whoever's out there and hopefully I get somebody good. And in the beginning, I didn't have somebody good. And in the beginning, it was bad. It was good at all. That's sort of a story I'll leave for another day, but more or less, if you trust what I have to say, then you can take this as objective material, in that this person did not understand how to trim, did not understand the skeletal structure or any of the structure of the foot for that matter, and had been taught more in what would be referred to as a traditional sense of shave everything off flat, chuck a shoe on, send them out. Don't get yourself too concerned of exactly, what you're cutting off. Just, it's a cookie cutter sort of thing. And I was not only not happy with that, but the horse that I was having maintained through this person just got worse and worse. And I didn't understand. So that led to studying. So it goes back to the same question. Well, if you want to trim your own horse and somebody says to you, well, why don't you hire somebody who's a professional, who's certified, who's educated in the area? It's a question that you have to answer, because it's not that it's becoming less common, but it wasn't common to do such a thing yourself. But way more people nowadays are learning how to trim their own horses. Way more people are becoming educated, at least to a level where they can critically look at the trim that's been done on their horse and say, I don't like that. And I get plenty of clients that come to me and say, look, I wasn't very happy with what was being done. Can you tell me if my fears are correct or incorrect? And so, of course, I take along my kit of, I don't have it here, it's in the house, but essentially it's a kit that I have that has, a hoof, one of these hoofs, one or two of these. I bring along some capsules. I bring along some coffin bones, and we talk for a bit, and we discuss how and why. And there's plenty of times that they say, well, my instincts were, this wasn't getting done right. Not only that, but my horse was getting worse, and I think I knew why. I did some research. Now, that doesn't mean because you've done some research and you think you know why, that you can go ahead and, pick up a hoof knife and a rasp. I don't have a rasp here. And some nippers or something like that and start chopping away your horse's feet. So, um, but it's a start. It's a start. And so there really isn't a good, I would say, what would be referred to as a good answer to um, why do you think you're qualified? Uh, and more that I think that the question should be asked, why do I think that the person who's trimming my horse now, who I think isn't a good job, why are they qualified? And why is the person next to me not saying, what about the person now? Are they qualified? Instead of looking at you and saying that. But that's because it falls off of tradition. It falls off of the thought that this is how it's done and this is the way you should do it because it's been done this way forever or for a while. But that's changing. That's changing big time. It's huge. There are many um, groups out there that are very supportive of new people. It doesn't mean that it's a good thing sometimes, though, because some people trim their horses and they really wreck them. Um, and then they have to call in somebody who knows what they're doing, and then you're back into this vicious circle. Okay, moving on. So I'm going to keep coming back to that a little bit, but I see I can see the screen on the phone. I'm going to look on my other, that's sort of my, that's not, yeah, this is my real phone. That's just, yeah, live. So, okay. So Carrie, I answered your question. Okay, no, I just want to say that they have been taking care for a while to see his work. Germany, a fair, you need 2.5 years of apprenticeship to get a certificate. Good. Yes, like I said, in Europe, and I only really knew about the UK, but I'm very curious to know if in the UK or in Germany or any of the countries that require some certification, that people actually ask to see that. And even still, here's the problem. Here's the problem. There wouldn't be an army of horse owners trying to find out how to trim their horses if these 2.5 years experienced people were doing the right job. You don't know that. So I would say don't ever take it for granted. Be really critically thinking about it um, because I'm sure there are plenty of farriers that are going out of business because they just keep messing up. And I know some, sadly. And it's mainly due to tradition, old ways of doing things. So, say, for example, you go to school and you learn a particular way. Maybe it's 10 years old. Well, the hoof trimming um, school of thought has evolved, especially over the past 5 to 8 years, has rapidly evolved. I mean, the learning curve for a while has kind of been like this. I mean, straight up. But it's sort of plateauing kind of thing. But for a while there, it was straight up. Like everybody was really confused of exactly how to do things and why to do them. It's always about the why. It's not exactly the how, because there's a pile of different methods out there and measuring gauges and rulers and mappings and stuff like that. And those are all great tools, but until you really understand the why, um, and the how, then you'll never sort of establish your own sort of bunch of things to do. But it's the way we learn, right? We learn off of following a set. I mean, I can't even count how many people have said, I just want to know, what to do, the series of steps. It's like, me too, but it's not the way it works. So then the other thought in here, Carrie says, I want to see some horses that been taken care of for a while and to see the work. Well, there are a lot of horses out there that have very poor feet. They're still running around doing their thing. They still seem to be not lame yet, um, but it's coming. And even then, you're still only really going to see a snapshot. You don't know if that horse has been abscessing, and right now it's not abscessing. And it would be a hard thing to judge if you didn't have your own sort of understanding and education of what a good foot looks like. The only clinics I've done here so far, not to trim, because I'm kind of leery about that because the trimming world is voracious. But how to recognize a good foot is one that I've done here. I think I've done 3 classes. I'm going to do an online one, a live one, which is one of the reasons why I'm in here, cleaning up and setting up. I got my lights going. Everything I should be quite well lit. This should look pretty good. So anyways, yeah, the ability to recognize what a good foot looks like and why it looks good is so important. It's no different than when you go to buy the thing and the horse is missing some of its hair. Well, that's a pretty good indication that there's a problem. There's a skin problem on your horse. Gracie came with that. Gracie came with a terrible skin problem. Cleared up within a month or 2, I think, at most. And now she's never had a problem since. Roni, same thing. He had rain scald all over him, all over his back when we got him. No problems. Luke's still got a sweet itch. Lena's never had a problem. Yeah, I can't think of anything. So, visible stuff like that, but hooves are weird. You go look in magazines at what a good foot looks like. There was one recently, I don't know if you guys have seen it on Facebook, but Purina put out this ad, and it literally, I think it literally says, "No hoof, no horse. What are you feeding your horse?" And as if you're supposed to feed Purina food to your horse, which is, we're not going to get into, we better not get into diet. We're not getting into diet today. But it literally had a picture of a hoof that the heel was probably, if this is the hoof, the heel went down to there, like here. You can't, I don't know if you guys can see that, but it was an inch past where it should have been. Let's put it that way. It was ridiculous, let alone that it was also rotated. And if you could recognize that, then you'd know. But if you didn't, you would actually take that ad and you would think, oh, Purina knows what they're talking about. And that's what a healthy hoof looks like. Because if you feed your horse Purina, your hooves will look like that. And they're shiny and they're all painted and it looks good. And everybody's, what? No, that's not how a hoof should look. There's way too much proof out there to show what healthy hooves look like. Way too many pictures, way too many videos. And I'm just going to be in the mix. It'll just be another set of videos that everybody will be like, yep, that's what it looks like. So, not Purinas. Went by previous owner's recommendation, says Sue. Usually recommendations are very good. If somebody's owned a horse and they've had somebody take care of that horse for years, they can say, look, my horse has been sound for years. This is a good bet. And I'd say, yeah, that is a good bet. Hopefully. So, hi, Kimmy. Kimmy says hi. Hey, David, how's it going? Thought you were going to show up, man. Tell me all about all the things that you want to tell me about. But you didn't. Tina says, any advice on a very old saddle that I have left in the basement and smells? What's it smell like? Saddles, if they're leather, clean them, condition them. Leather lasts forever, unless it's chewed up. Then it doesn't last very long. But if it's just kind of moldy, you can clean off a lot of leather and then condition it, oil it, get it back to being supple and not cracked. If it's really cracked and old and stuff like that, you probably just better chuck it. If it smells, it probably smells musty. So I want to keep it as a moldy. Oh, you already answered. You want to keep it as a moldy smell. Clean the mold off, get some vinegar, or you could try, I don't know if you can try bleach. I don't think it's probably a good idea. It's probably, yeah, vinegar is probably fine. Some other people have some advice on here. I've had leather stuff. I usually just kind of clean it off as best as I can, condition it, kills the mold. I mean, it's just a fungus, right? So you kill that stuff off and you condition the leather to be leather again, leathery, leather, like soft and Poof. Very good. Carrie says you can hardly tell she has it on. She's talking about Gracie. It's true. That boot, she's so acclimated to that one boot. Somebody was worried. I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was you, Carrie, but said, well, won't, maybe she'll have a hip problem or something. And I said, I don't think so. I mean, it's only a half inch to an inch of depth. I mean, it's very little, maybe 3/4 of an inch or so off of what the other foot is. And there's plenty of horses out there wandering around with hooves that are imbalanced, and they seem to do relatively okay until you kind of fix them and get them better, and then suddenly you think, wow, you're way better. So there you go. Western style of boarding, not rough boarding. You live in Wisconsin. Well, Tina, do I have any advice on boarding? Yeah. Yes, I do. Plenty. Go there. I don't know about Western boarding. I guess Western boarding and English boarding is different, right? Yeah. I don't know. Is it? Maybe, yeah. Because English boarding, they might want to keep their horses way cleaner. No field, no going out in a field. Western horses are more likely probably to be out in a field. You know, from my experience, boarding, well, we board horses here. And I don't board somewhere else for a reason. In fact, one of the main instigators of purchasing my own place was because I was sick of trying to find a good place to board my horses. And so the bare minimum is that the horses need to be fed, they need to have clean water, they should be looked after, like looked upon regularly. That's why I take you guys on a horsey check all the time, because I'm so often doing horsey check. You see probably 1 out of 20 or 30 horsey checks that I'll be doing. So just drag you guys along and you get to see the horses once, of the day. But I'm constantly looking out. I'm always here. It's like this really long chain that lets me get to the mailbox at the end of the driveway and then pulls me back. So, always here, always looking, always wondering, always checking, always thinking, is there anything weird going on out there? Because horses are very methodical creatures. And when something's wrong, you'll know it. So I actually did get a couple of comments about that. It was very unusual to be so overseeing, paying so much attention to make sure everybody's okay. Nobody's hurt themselves on a fence. No fighting. Nobody's caught on something. Nobody's jumped a gate. Everybody's still got food, clean water, all these things. Because some people aren't around at all during the day. There's nobody to look in. They come in the morning, they come in at night, and that's it. The horses are alone for the rest of the time. So it'll really be up to you if that's what you want. But bottom line, and I know places, and I've just heard of places, and there's a reason why actually, I'll get into this story another time, but Sky is here specifically because he went to a new place and they literally did not feed him. They forgot. They forgot to feed him. How do you forget to feed a horse when you're a boarding facility? That's your job. That's your one job. That's your whole job. Just take care of the thing. So, there is a pretty low bar that should be able to be met, Western or English. So for me, food, regular food. For us here, it's hay bags, and they always have food, always something in the tummy. That's the way the tummy works on the horse. Study that, trust me, well worth it. And clean water. Open space to move around in. I don't want them stuck in a stall. It's bad for them, bad for their feet, bad for their brain. Can they play with other horses? Can they co-groom? Very important. You want the mental stability of your horse there. Horses that starve are not mentally stable. Horses that don't get to hang out with other horses, don't get to play, don't get to run around, things like that, can be quite mentally unstable, which can lead to dangerous situations. So those are my bare minimums. I don't think that changes for Western or English. So hopefully that helps. If not, let me know. I'm still reading. Terry, watched your other videos, but can you go over again to work with fecal or work without fecal or work without. What? Sorry, Terry. This is way back at 316 and it's 337 now. Do you mean a fecal count for for worms? I hope so. I'm gonna quickly scroll all the way to the bottom. Tina says, sounds great. Welcome, Tina. Okay, well, Terry says worming. Okay, she's talking about worming. Good. Okay. Fecal egg counts. Okay, so fecal egg counts, 90% of the time, they're totally useful. Very good thing to do. Check them out. See if your horse is wormy. If your horse has got, really itchy tail or dock or their butt is itchy, you can check that out. If they eat, but they're still losing weight or they don't put on weight, you can check for that. Do they have a really big belly? Maybe they're sort of, there's something kind of going on. They might have some what's referred to as a colic problem, which is really just a stomach and intestine problem. Check for worms. And the reason is because these little things can dig into the intestines and be really super irritating. Now, the flip side of that, 10% of the time, a fecal egg count is totally useless, especially in the early spring, because what's happening is those worms are essentially sort of hibernating because obviously they can't come out. They're going to come out in the snow and they'll die. That said, though, they're very good at hibernating even in the cold. It's usually only heat that kills off eggs. So when doing fecal egg counts, you'll want to keep that in mind at that time of the year. So plenty of people will worm in the beginning of spring just in case, because you can't do a fecal egg count's not going to be accurate. But anytime other than that, it should be reasonably accurate. It's a good thing to do if you suspect things. It's not very expensive, at least not as far. I charge $10 for it. So, and you can do it yourself if you have your own microscope and flotation solution, which is, I think it's sodium nitrate. No, what is it? That doesn't sound right. That sounds like something else. I can't remember now. I can't remember what it is, and it's in the house. So that's that. But anyways, it's just a flotation solution. Essentially, causes the eggs to rise up to the top, where you take them off, put it on a slide, look in a microscope, count them out, see how many there are. If there's more than so many, then you'd better get worming because there's too many eggs in there, which means there's probably a problem. Not necessarily though. Some horses just have some worms and it doesn't affect them at all. Hopefully that helps, Terry. Maria's here. Hey, Maria. Maria showed up from Singapore here. It's fascinating. Thanks for coming. You missed the beautiful weather. I mean, it's been kind of rainy now, but yeah. Okay, Marianne says, farrier schooling is more about the making the metal get on the foot. Not so much about the actual hoof anatomy and stuff. That's what it is around here. Now, again, that's not first person experience. I never went to farrier school because I wasn't interested in ever doing shoeing. I'll take off the shoe, which I'm actually not as good at as I'd like to be because I don't do it very often, but take your time. You can get the nails out, the shoe comes off, you just go from there. So, yeah, so farrier schooling, I believe as well, is a lot about doing metal work. So, let's see. Maria says, any pony update? No, I don't. Nope. Marianne, I'm going to a trimming course in November with a person that trims my horse so I can trim my horse 100% eventually. Good. Good for you. Hopefully your trimmer is good and knows what they're talking about. I know of a couple of schools, you could call them, people who do clinics, and I can see or hear about what they've taught. And some of the things are highly questionable. Some methods that these people are following are old and do not apply. A method that was used a long time ago, probably still is for that matter. I don't know if I should say it, but it's called the Strasser method. And it was about 4 years ago. It was proven to be abusive due to laming plenty of horses and literally just sort of cutting the heels out from underneath them. and thinning the sole to a level that the horses would not be able to keep up with. Um, so there are a lot of methods out there that looked like they worked, but then there was a crash. And so people were like, whoa, we better think of something else. So people came up with other stuff and they sort of half crashed. We're getting there. So now we're getting, or we believe we're getting to where there's a lot of sense being made in methods of trimming. So I would critically think your way through it as best as you can, like you do everything, like even my videos. I always tell people, just everything I say, just take it and see what you can do. It doesn't have to be the exact thing that you do. Tina says, it's illegal in England for anyone who's not qualified fair to trim or shoe horses. Yes, I was just saying that actually. That you're pretty much, I think you're the only country, or Germany might be another one, where it's not legal. You get in trouble if somebody. Do the police come along? How does that even work? Who who uh, who manages that? Curious. Carrie says it's certainly cheaper to do it yourself. Plus, you see your own horses all the time and you can see what they need. Yes, Carrie, it is cheaper in the moment. Um, because if most people charge maybe 40 to 60 bucks per trim, if you're going to shoe your horse, it's anywhere from 120 to $250 per shoeing if you want just the fronts or all four. So it can be very expensive to maintain your horse. Now, that said, though, those are every 6 weeks. My belief is that, and plenty of others as well, are under the mindset that horses should be trimmed every 3 weeks. 4 weeks would be kind of long. 2 weeks is a little early, but if you're rehabbing, 2 weeks is a good amount of time. So as I kind of said, you don't, there's no set, like this is how you do it and this is the time frame you do it in. Whenever my clients get a hold of me 4 weeks in, I kind of think, oh boy, I hope I hope all the work we've done isn't undone. But generally it isn't. So, you can go 3 to 4 weeks, but no different than your nails on your hands. You just don't want to let them get out there, because the more deformation that can happen, the harder it is to bring it back to a nice healthy state. So um, not to say more often is better, but definitely more often than the traditional. 6 weeks is way, way too long, in my mind. Let's see. Marianne says, our old farrier does trimming like he's going to put on shoes, except not put on shoes after, removes sole and does not do a roll on the toe. Anybody who removes sole that is live should be completely fired from their job, as far as I'm concerned. And I am adamant about that. If somebody is going about trimming horses' feet and removing live sole purposefully, they should be fired. You should fire them. Horses need their sole like we need our skin. If you have a callus, it's common. You get calluses on your hand, you get calluses on your feet, and say there's a lot of women on here, even some men. I do. I get rid of calluses off my. They're such a pain. You work hard, or maybe you play sports a lot. And you're like, this is just out of hand. Your body has evolved to create extra protection in areas of things it needs, especially when I'm working hard. Calluses everywhere. And you say, okay, well, I'm just going to take these calluses off with my little filing doodad. If you go too far, you go one skin level or two skin levels too deep, you know it. Horses know it too. Digging into live sole should literally be illegal. Okay. David went up to Enderby. Do. Right. Taking video, haven't shown up. Come on, man. I want to see these horses. Tina says there's a big movement now to barefoot running for humans. That's nuts. I know, I understand. I've seen the literature on that as well. I agree with it. I think it's very healthy to be as barefoot as possible. Not to always be in shoes, especially for women who have to go to work to wear high heel shoes, or men who have to wear very constricting shoes. Steel-toed boots are a great example. When you take those things off, boy, oh boy, does it just feel good to be barefoot. So yeah, I think so too. David, thanks for the thumbs up, buddy. Mm-hmm. Where are we? Shelpin. I want to learn to trim eventually. Should I go to farrier school to start? Where do you live? I can't remember. Shelpin. Shelpin. And can a petite woman be a farrier? Yes, of course. It's exercise, like everything else. Holy cow, you guys write a lot. I'm not even halfway through this. Okay. Um, so can a petite woman be a farrier? Um, I'm I mean, I'm going to say it again. I'm doing this. I'm working on. I've already started accumulating some footage that I've got. I'm going to be adding to that footage and doing a instructional set of videos talking about from beginning to middle to end on trimming feet. But it doesn't just talk about trimming because it's very, very important. And I just can't stress this enough. When you're trimming a horse, you better know how to handle them. And you guys have seen me trim. I go to reach for Lena's leg or reach for Gracie's leg, or I don't know if you saw me with Luke too. Reach for their leg, they give it. They don't lean on me. They don't push me over. They don't try to bite. They don't whatever. All of these things matter, big or small. It's a, it's a squirrel, literally. They're so adorable. They're everywhere, everywhere. Um, but you must be able to manage a horse, so big or small. And I don't know if I put it up, but I had a picture of Haley, or not trimming. She wants to cleaning Gracie's feet, and she's 8. So unless you're smaller than an 8-year-old and weaker than an 8-year-old, uh, yeah, absolutely, sure you can do it. Can you put on a shoe? Probably not. Would you want to? No, no. I'd say no. If you were to say to me, should I put shoes on? No, no, you shouldn't. Don't. It's very, very hard work for one. And two, it's very, very hard on the horse, but it doesn't matter. As a petite woman, don't worry about gender for one. If you're small and a little bit, maybe not so strong in the arms or something, it comes down to training your horse and then also understanding the tools. If you can train your horse to be really gentle and quiet and help you out, then that's a big, big help. There's a lot less energy needed to trim the horse. For those that, for example, I trim plenty of horses, and for the ones that are real pain, they are just heavy on me. They lean on me. When I'm done trimming them, I'm sweating. It's hard work. But none of my horses do that to me, unless it's Lena and I haven't trimmed her for over a month, and then her hooves are just so. You take I'll cover all that stuff, but essentially you would just trim more often and you would do less. You would become less tired. Your horse is trained. You would pick up its feet. You'd be fine. You know how to use the tools. Using tools carefully, it's no different than cooking. If you've got a dull knife or you don't know how to use your knife, you're probably going to hurt yourself. You're probably going to cut things wrong. You're probably going to, whatever. So, yes, absolutely. Woman or man, doesn't matter. It's totally doable. In Germany, usually when opening a business for getting employed, certifications are required to show. After that, it's usually the reputation that gets you customers. Yeah, it's kind of like here, except you don't need a certification for anything. I don't even know if you'd need, I've never asked my veterinarian for a certificate or some kind of diploma or whatever. It's true, you just go on a reputation. So certainly don't have to be overly educated in training either. Sharon, hello, Sharon. Yikes, says Tina. Jackie, quite a few friends of mine have Arabs and don't shoe at all. I believe it's not illegal to trim a hoof in UK, only to put the shoes on the horse. Jackie, I think your name's Jackie. It's spelt sort of Jackie to me. I heard that it's no, I don't know. So we're not. This isn't the legal channel. This is just the horse channel. But I heard that it's illegal to mess around with a horse's hooves. I do think, though, that it makes a lot of sense to put a shoe on would be absolutely illegal. To trim them might not be, but I think it's determined that it is a medical procedure. And as such, you must be certified. So, not sure. It should be certified as a medical procedure because you can really wreck a horse by taking off too much. And I've seen plenty of horses that I have to show up and be like, what is this? Who did this? And there are many times that I have to really hold in my anger, um, which sounds bad because I don't get angry on this channel. You guys don't really see me get frustrated or nothing. But when I see some of these horses and their hooves or their frogs, or they've got thrush that's been there for probably years, um, and I say, who's taking care of this foot? And it's some certified farrier. And I think, oh man, that person is giving proper certified professional and educated farriers a bad name, and it's unfair. And I would imagine that there are plenty of professional, certified, educated, and ticketed or whatever farriers out there that look at those clowns and just be like, get out, because you don't belong here. Go study. So, I think we're all in the same boat in that regard. If you're making horses bleed and you're cutting off live sole and you're morphing the hoof into something that it shouldn't be, can't be, well, that's a problem. So Arabs without shoes, sure, why not? They don't need shoes. No horse does, in my opinion. David, gonna get in touch with me. That's good. Look forward to it, buddy. Tina says, thank you. You're welcome, Tina. Saddle soap works good, at least it used to. That's true. There is such a thing as saddle soap. I don't know what it is. I'd assume it's just soap with some oil in it, maybe. But that's kind of opposite because you can't really have oil and soap together. Maybe you could. I mean, that's the point of soap. Molecularly, it bonds well with oil, which is why it's easy to clean things off with soap that are oily. That's oily. Saddle soap. Try saddle soap. Oh, geez, this is a good question. Did you have an opportunity to look at the English translation of the German Army Manual? No, but I really do want to. I know you commented about that. I literally probably have a stack of books this big still waiting for me. I just have a lot going on, but I want to. So please, if you can, keep reminding me. I'm making mental notes. I'm just going to write that down because I actually do. I liked what you had put in and what they had to say. German Army. I forgot all about it. Read. Bam. Taking notes. Thank you. Good reminder. Sue loves the horsey checks. I do too. That's why I do them so often. In fact, right now I'm looking. Peggy's eating. Gracie's wandering. I can sort of see Lena. She's eating. So, I'm always looking at the horses. 6 months winter season. We do have a lot of winter here as well, although not as much as up north more. Carrie says she'd wander out here and volunteer to squishy scratch Lena's butt. Well, I tell you, when Maria was here, she was scritchy scratching everybody and they loved it. So if you ever make it out this way, yeah. These are old comments. These are already 20 minutes ago, but Sue says that's ridiculous not to feed. It's true. It is absolutely ridiculous. Any boarding facility that you go to should have a strict feeding schedule, whatever that is. Whether, but we'd end up getting into diet and then the biological constraints of the horse. I can tell you straight out that if a horse goes longer than 3 hours or so without eating, its stomach is empty. 2 to 3 hours. An empty stomach on a horse is a bad thing. The reason it's bad is because they are constantly making acid in their stomach. And that means that acid is pooling in that stomach and it's a matter of time before it fills up. And the problem with that is that only 2/3 of the stomach is actually properly lined to protect against that. The top third is not properly lined to protect against that. And as such, instead of having saliva and enzymes and hay and whatever the heck else people feed horses, helping to protect the stomach, it has none. And this is exactly how horses get ulcers, and then they end up having all kinds of colic issues, which is just another word for stomach problems and intestinal problems, because they're just processing acid. And then, of course, when you do finally feed them, they just gulp it down like there's no tomorrow, which, of course, then I wish I could chuck you guys over there to watch these girls. Anyways, so it's a bad, it's bad. So yeah, to not even feed them for a whole night, I can't imagine. It's just, but it happens a lot. It happens a lot. So don't go to a place like that if you can help it. And that's provable. That's not even subjective. That is purely objective material. Science has shown us very specifically how horses eat, why they eat the way they do, why their stomach works the way they do, why their intestines work. Science tells us all of that. There's no disputing or arguing that. So there you go. Can't argue with science. Too much grain causes colic. Diet. Should we get into diet? I don't know if we should get into diet. Too much grain can cause colic, especially if they gulp it down and then it gets stuck. And colic is another word for intestinal problems. So you don't really know what the problem exactly is. Grain in general is not, horses don't need it. They don't, there's again, plenty of science to show that grains, not healthy for horses. Yes, they eat it mostly because it's full of molasses. So it becomes a very sugary, lovely treat. I eat a lot of sugar. It's not good. If I have a gummy in front of me, I'll probably eat it. If my kid says, hey, want to get some gummies? I'll be like, no, I don't want to get gummies. Get some gummies. So sugar tastes good. What are you going to do? Horses love it, you know. So grains might be tasty and a lovely treat and all that kind of stuff, but horses don't need it. It causes all kinds of problems, and that is provable. Marianne, would you need a very advanced microscope or would a budget one suffice? A budget one is just fine. As long as it's got, I think, a 10 times lens. What do they come with? 4, 10, it's something else. You know, the one's a little turny deal and it's got 3 on it. You usually just use the middle one. I think it's 10 times. You don't need a very good one. If you do it often, you can get one that you can look at it on a screen. It's got a little camera inside. Or the ones that have 2 eyes, they're easier. But if you kind of get good at it and you don't really care, you know, you just kind of go with 1 eye, you know, whichever eye works for you. They're fine. You got 1 horse, 2 horses, maybe 3 horses or something like that, totally doable. If you do it a lot for some kind of living, then yeah, maybe something a bit better. And that's mainly just actually for looking. The lens quality is fine. Most of them are just fine for what you're doing. You're just looking for little legs and they're very visible. It's pretty obvious. Sodium carbonate. Oh, we're talking about flotation solution. I can't remember what it is. It's not carbonate. Oh, finally, for once, I'm awake during the live. I don't know what to call you. Inks. Oh, Kathy's here. Hello, Kathy. Got in a live chat. It's good. Okay, back to Germany. You usually get in trouble when a problem arises and you have to prove you were qualified to do something. With old craftsmanship guilds essentially still in existence, some trades are still a bit regulated. I think some trades should be very regulated, but that's a totally different topic. If somebody lames their horse, I would wonder who is the police of that, and you'd have to kind of, there'd have to be some body of people that are recognized as those that can determine how and why something happened. Because it is a little bit of, if the horse is dead, then it's autopsy time. If not, then it's just clinical research time as to what's wrong with the horse. And so a lot of times I'll tell people, and I even regret not doing it myself, but take pictures of before and after. There's plenty of times when I think, I know exactly what to do here. I know what this looks like. And I'll go to do it and it'll look good. And then something won't have been quite right. And I'll think, I know I did it right. Was it something else? But you take pictures and you look back after, and there's plenty of times that I've looked at pictures in the past and I thought, should have taken a little bit more off here. Probably be fine, but I wish I did this a bit better. And it just makes you better at your craft anyways. So be critical of yourself with this stuff. Marianne, my trimmer seems good. She's very passionate about what she does and hoof anatomy, but of course, if anything sounds off, weird, or doesn't quite make sense, I'll be researching. Good. Yeah, sounds good. Brenda's here from Texas. Hello, scratch golfer Brenda. Got it. Now I remember. Well, welcome. Thanks for coming from North Texas. Question. My Gracie from Danielle. My Gracie will only come to me in pasture if the other two boys do. So I'm keeping her in a separate paddock to train her to trust people, but she cries if she can't see them. Oh, man. I had another lady comment recently. Like I said, I don't even think I'm going to get to them because you guys have so many good questions. But I've got piles of questions still to get back to. But another person had commented on how they can't catch their horse in a field, and they'd broken their foot or something or hurt their foot, and as such, uh, having to chase them down is just not an option, anyways. And the horse is getting worse and worse. It was already sketchy to begin with, or something like that. Now, your horsey, I've seen her, lovely horse, by the way. Um, when you have, you're going to need to take some time. The bottom line is that what you're doing by separating her off is a little bit of a band-aid approach, mainly because you end up, if you look at it from the perspective of, I mean, it's effective, it can work. So I'm not saying don't, or you're doing something wrong or anything like that. But I will say that maybe you could allow her the time that she'd like with her friends, because it makes her feel good and safe. You don't know what kind of past that she has. Plenty of horses that haven't had any friends, and they finally get a friend, and then you take that friend away, they get very upset and sad. And it doesn't, you know, if she can't see them and she starts to cry, that's totally normal. Whatever you think, that's just normal. Horses live in the moment. They don't plan ahead. They don't necessarily think too far ahead. They might be able to learn through a lot of patterns, which I understand is what you're doing. But it can seem very scary to be alone. And so I'd expect that you could probably be very effective if every time they left, you went to her and told her it's okay, did some training, did some groundwork, and then sent her off to do something. And hopefully she doesn't try to chase down, and maybe she just takes comfort from you being there. But it takes a lot of work and a lot of time, and I can't stress this enough, to have a horse feel like being with you is enough. Being alone is never going to be enough. It'd be very unusual for it to be enough for a horse. Horses that are alone usually get pretty worried. But to be with you and want to be with you and to come to you when you ask for it will take time. You have to build that relationship. So I believe that you can totally do it. You're just gonna have to put in the time. And it's totally normal. Horses not being attached to a human is normal. To get them to attach to you is a feat of magic half the time. And somebody else put it a really great way about living with your horse. So every time you see me do horsey check, everybody comes to me. Almost every time. They come up. If I go into the arena, they surround me. But I'm around, and like I said, I check daily, not hourly. I was going to say hourly, but that's not the case. Many times a day, I'll go out, I'll just pet them, I'll touch them, I'll check in with them, I'll give them what I call a horsey check-in. And if you guys have seen me work with Macaroni, he's a perfect example of what a horse looks like when it's checking, what I call checking in. So I try to mimic that and let them know I'm here. Do you need anything? Sometimes this is going to sound weird, but sometimes they'll talk to me in a way of like, as you've seen, can you scratch me here? I'm out of food. Could you fill me up? I want to go to the arena. Can you let me out? I want to eat grass. Can I go eat grass now? Things like that, where you kind of look at them and you think, I think you're talking to me. What do you want? And you look at them and you think, you want grass? I mean, that's a pretty good bet. Does a horse want grass? Oh, you're a genius. Yeah, of course they're going to want grass. But you know what I mean? Like if you are better at communicating, and they start to look at you and think, oh, you can understand me? It's like that. It's as if you spoke another language, and everybody around you didn't understand you. And then somebody came along and spoke your language. And, oh, you can understand what I'm saying, like being a ghost. You can hear me? So it's like that. Be more of that. The more you are of that, I find is very, very effective at getting them to draw. So what you don't have, and I'll be talking about this soon if I haven't talked about it enough, but you don't have enough draw, you maybe have a lot of drive, maybe no drive. I don't know. Can you send her away? But you definitely don't have enough draw, especially to supersede the boys. So that'll be something that you'll work on. Time, lots. Well, Marianne's off to bed. Good night, Marianne, when you come back and check this out. I know horses learn at different speeds, but how long do you believe this will continue before she realizes people are not out to hurt her? I don't know if horses ever come to some conclusion that people aren't out to hurt them, but they can come to the conclusion that you won't. And I'm going to be I have a video planned on this topic that may or may not encourage you in this area. But I can tell you, you would be a good start. So go for it. The better you can do, the better that horse can succeed for other people. And hopefully that connection will be made in the horse. But those that have been really hurt and are really suffering, and I've met a few of them, it takes time to build that up. And if they've been really poorly treated for quite some time, then it's not you who's up against the wall, it's them, and it's their own wall created for preservation purposes. So something to consider. Okay, moving on. Marianne says, thank you for everything you do. You're welcome when you come back and read this. Martine's here. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I'll view tomorrow, she says. Good. Go to bed, get some sleep. See you tomorrow. It's almost 6 o'clock in Wisconsin. What time is it here? It's a little after 4 right now. Brenda's got a bunch of thumbs up. Thanks, Brenda. I want to make sure you got the ISBN. I don't have the ISBN. Do you have the ISBN? That's the number for the book, right? There's also the HTV11, which is historically interesting of Army stable management. I like history stuff. Some of the history stuff for horses is pretty crazy, but some of it is really good. Brenda's got to go. Bye, Brenda. What is your feeding schedule? I just make sure they have food all the time. I don't have a schedule. We don't have any schedule for that matter. We just make sure that they've got food and hay bags. So Martine says saddle soap is excellent for leather. This saddle has a cloth underneath and smells musty. Again, give it a good cleanse, air it out. What else can you do? I think you can steam clean these things if you get a steam cleaner. You can sort of not necessarily burn off the stuff, but you can cook it off and kill it off. You really want to kill all that fungus. That's all you really want to do. Put it in a dry situation. If you got super sunny weather, you could try super sunny weather. Kathy says, I don't understand why everybody doesn't use hay bags unless in pasture. Because hay bags are a pain in the butt. And I hate them personally, but I use them. There are quite a few schools of thoughts around why hay bags should not be used. And one is that horses will eat too much. They'll eat more than they should. And in some cases, they do eat more than they should. And it sucks. And, they get a little bit tub. So in such a case, you then have to think, okay, well, do I need lower sugar hay? And then you got to get tested hay. You got to find a place that has tested hay. Do they test the hay? Are they reliable? So for a lot of people, it becomes a pain. So hay bags are a pain, not just because hay bags are a pain, but because sometimes the process around them sucks. And then they figured that hay bags are one size fits all. So they buy a bunch of these cheap $15 crappy 2 to 3 inch hold hay bags. And of course the horse goes through it in 2 hours because it's clearly not, you know, it's not going to be a slow feeder. But to go buy the 1 inch ones, a good quality one for a decent size, which is where, everybody who's over on Patreon has really, you guys have really helped out with this. So I gotta buy hay bags because they will use them up and stuff, and so they're anywhere between 60 and $100, but they will last years, especially if you just keep repairing them with some twine and stuff like that. But well worth it, totally worth it compared to the cheap ones. When the cheap ones break, I've done a video about hay bags, but when they break, it ends up costing more. So to buy a cheaper one ends up costing you more than to buy a good one and have it last, because you'll go out and maybe it's an hour or two later and they bit through these crappy little pieces of string that are holding these things together and emptied the bag. They got no hay, and your hay bag's wrecked, and it's just going to get wrecked next time too because it's cheap and crappy. So okay, where was I? Yeah, so that's why, Kathy. I mean, not everybody uses hay bags for that reason, um, and but they should. I agree that they should. I mean, I don't think there's any better way. I've come up with some inventions in my head, but they all require either electricity or some kind of extra. Hay bags are it right now. Slow feeders, anything that's slow feeder. So David says 28 watching, 11 thumbs up. Yeah, let's hit the thumbs up. It's true. The YouTube algorithm loves it when people vote um, for the video. I don't think it shows up half the time. I think you have to hide the chat to be able to see the thumbs up little doodad thing. So thanks, buddy. Basically, in that situation, it's civil law, so you can sue the person that did it. Civil law for wrecking your horse a little, eh? Interesting. But then I would assume that anybody who's actually practicing in this area would have insurance. So, meh. Treats in your pocket always brought mine to me. It's true. I generally don't talk too much about treat training, but there is definitely something to be said for using treats for some situations. And in some cases, it can be to begin the process of bonding. You're never going to really bond with a horse through food. Horses don't bond because you provide sustenance. Dogs and cats more will do that, and humans will do that. As predators, we're more inclined to bond to a food source. But prey animals will bond through safety and comfort. So that's your goal, whether you get there a little later than earlier or whatever, totally cool. So yeah, treats in your pocket. If you regularly were to come up with some carrots or apples or whatever, it can be helpful. It can start the process, and then wean them off of that. Say, oh, I'm just here to pet you. You come in, you pet them, you make them feel really good. Maybe you do a couple of minutes of just liberty groundwork, and then you leave. You've had them move their feet. They respect you, so that when you come out the next time, hopefully when you say, hey, come here, they do. They might think there's a treat coming because you've done some classical training, classical conditioning training, or because they actually kind of want to be around you. It's nice to be with you. So if you don't have, yeah. So we're talking about in Germany still from Nightfire. When somebody does something and they don't have certification or qualifications, then they get in even more trouble because they don't have the certifications. So yeah, that makes sense to me. I would imagine if somebody was doing veterinarian work around here, did some surgery on a horse, and that horse died, somebody would be like, what happened there? You're not a vet. And but I don't know exactly. I think it's still, I think the owner would be in trouble for hiring that person. Not sure how it works. I'll have to find out. Kick them in uncomfortable places. Like the knee, right? You mean the knee or the elbow? It always hurts. You know, you got a funny bone on your elbow. Someone to kick you there, that'd be uncomfortable. Tina says horses like to be in packs or herds. It's true. Horses love to be with other horses. A horse that is alone is usually a very troubled horse or a sad horse, uh, um, especially like proper alone ones. Not alone as in like, you know, there's a paddock here and a paddock there, and they have to look, and they're not together. That's not so bad. But literally, I had a client who had a or has still has a horse, and it literally lives alone. She's not there very often. There's no companion animal, nothing. And sometimes I'd show up, and that horse would literally it'd just be in the corner like this, and you couldn't barely get the poor little guy out. He said, "Come on, come out," and he just lifeless. Oh, it was so terrible. I hated it. Moving on. Yes, horses like to be in herds. Herbivores in general should never have an empty stomach if it can stop the transit too. True, Martine. You're not here. You've gone to bed, I think. Um, uh, yes, herbivores. I'm guessing they're all the same then. If you're going to say that their stomachs work the same, there should not be an empty stomach. Like I said, a couple hours. I think it's 2 to 3 hours. If it's full, it can empty out. So you really want to make sure. So when our horses run out here and they've been out for a couple hours, it's, you know, I'm thinking, well, I better get some hay out there. But within that amount of time, I'm generally pretty relaxed about it. But for most of the time, if not all the time, our horses have some hay to chew on. I'm glad it's not 100% wrong, says Daniel. That makes sense. We worked on togetherness while out of sight, and she ignored me and wanted nothing but her friends. She'll need more time. Thanks. You're welcome. It's not any bit wrong. I wouldn't say it's any bit wrong. And if I got that across that it's wrong, I don't think so. But what I more look at is what is a more effective, um, uh, possibly effective approach. Again, it comes down to, well, maybe I'm right, but it it reminds me of the food problem. So if a horse for a long time always has food and then runs out, well, in its mind, it's going to be like, well, there should be food coming pretty soon because I always have food. But those horses that come from situations where they've starved all night or starved all day, and then they get their 2 flakes, and they eat those 2 flakes really fast, and then they starve all night, and then they get 2 flakes, and they starve all day. Those horses, when they come here, they don't know what to do with themselves. What do you mean there's always food? Well, I better eat it quick because when this runs out, I'm not going to be able to eat. And then if somebody steals and they get a mindset that's a little bit, I don't know if crazy is the right word, but definitely not calm. And you go to go feed them and they can't control themselves and they're way too excited for their own good. And it becomes dangerous again. So you're back to the danger. Anyhow, so there's that. So I think that by horses being alone, it might end up going a little bit slower unless you can be the person that is always going to be there when she gets upset to build that relationship. Say, look, I'm here, calm down, go move around a little bit, now come back to me, all good, things like that. um, that I think would work. But if not, then you might actually end up having them more classically conditioned to being afraid of being alone because they truly believe they're alone when their friends leave. And it's a scary situation. So I think maybe um, I would be more firm when with the boys. I would work much harder to separate her out. No different than I do here. You've probably seen it in the arena where the girls and the boys are together, and I'll clip off a girl. I'll maybe I'll go get Peggy and I'll say, Peggy, you're with me now, and I'll send the boys away, or I'll send the other girls away, and I'll make sure that Peggy stays, or I'll make sure that Lena stays. I actually practice that. Come to think of it, now that you've reminded me of that, I will literally go out there and I will just go cut a horse out, and I'll say, you're with me for now. Don't go anywhere. And if they go to leave, I'll make them stay. And I might not use a rope to do it. I might just cut them off and have them stay. And then I'll reassure them and tell them it's a good thing. I'll check over their body. Maybe I'll pick up their feet a little bit. I'll pet them and I will leave them. They might follow. I might be lucky to still have enough draw that they will follow me as I leave. Sometimes it works. So I think that's a much more effective approach. And you say, no, okay, go be with your friends. It's all good. I'm leaving now, so go find your comfort somewhere else. And that practice, I think, has a has a good result. So something to try, you know. I also have the theory that horses have some weak telepathic ability due to big brains. I also have wondered that. No kidding. I'm not kidding at all. I genuinely think sometimes that horses can yell at me telepathically. Sometimes I'll just be standing there and I'll just feel it. I'll look over and some horse is staring at me intently. Stop yelling at me. Maybe I'm just weird. Maybe I'm weird. I'm probably just weird. Time, lots, got it, thanks. You're welcome, Danielle. It is. It's just time. Time and quality. You can reduce time by heightening quality, but both is very effective. If your quality is a little lower, it takes more time. If your quality is higher, it takes less time. And in some cases, you can really get the job done fast. I would say that if you were of high quality enough, you could have the pattern changed within, I'd say, less than a week. I think you could change that pattern to a noticeable difference. It might not be 100% reliable, but you can make a noticeable difference. So when you go out, you have an expectation that that horse checks you out and checks in and says, I see you. I'm checking to see if you need me. You don't, or you do, and they respond accordingly. Not, oh God, you need me, I'm out. Because they're looking to see, they know that you want or need them. They know it from the minute you step into their line of sight. Like I've always said, right from hello, you gotta be good. Oh, Danielle, thanks. Couple of coffee. I have a cold coffee going right now, but thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah. Can I hose down the saddle? Tina, no, don't hose down your saddle. I don't think. You do it as dry as possible. You want to keep moisture out of that thing. Out. You want the moisture out. No more fungus growth. Dry it out. ISBN is in the comments. Thank you very kindly. I will look that up. Danielle, you're very welcome for the advice. Ask anytime here or Patreon, send me an email, whatever. The stuff that you're doing is great. I love the videos that you're doing. The horses look amazing. You can absolutely make a big difference in her life if you're wondering if she has had some trouble in the past. I didn't really see that when you're working with her. She actually looked quite kind. But you would obviously know a lot more than me. But definitely, and when you get it, when that happens, when you get that connection, when you get that draw that just, you walk out and you're like, you come, not in a mean way, but like, as in your mind, as a horse, you're saying, you're with me. When you watch Luke go out, when you watch the boys go out and they go to pick out a girl, Macaroni is a great example. When he says, Lena, come with me. Or Lena goes out and says, Peggy, come with me. I mean, you see Lena yelling at Luke all the time, scratch my back now. Luke's like, yep, I'm on it. They're firm orders, but they're not done with malice. There's no essentially superiority that needs to happen. It's just the way it is. So when you go out and say, you, Gracie, I need you right now, come please now. And she says, no, go away, get away from me. I'm hanging out with these guys over here. I feel more comfortable with them than you. You're going to build on that. You're going to just, trust me, totally be done. And it may not be right away. It may not be accurate right away, but it should be that she perks her ears up and checks you out and doesn't at least leave and then build on it. Anyways, you'll get it. If you don't, let me know. If you're kind of get something done, take a video. I'll watch that. So thanks for the ISBN. I did get it, I think. Where was it? I better write it down. I saw it come through. There's a way. Sorry, I can't remember where it is. Somewhere in here. Yeah, I'll have to look at it after. But I know I saw it come in. So Tina, yeah, don't hose down your saddle. You don't want to make it wetter. Oh, there it is. 978. 33316 515. Oops. Anybody else want to check that out? The comments that came through or that were put in about this book were quite interesting. If you're interested in historical stuff about horses in Germany, check it out. That's the 1937 version, which is shorter than its predecessor. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, from the fireside. Okay, Martine's finally going. Connections keep cutting by. You'll see this later. Sugar cookies as well for treats. Tina, it's an interesting thought. I would definitely advise against sugar for horses, just like for us. In fact, maybe even worse, it's no good. Um, obviously, just a tiny bit is fine and stuff like that. But I would suggest more carrots or apples as a more healthy alternative, because they're just as kind of tasty, but it's fructose instead of sucrose. Better for them and us. 8 Pines here. The horse I'm training, I just whistle and he comes running to me and he's on a 15-acre property. That's good. I watched video footage some time ago. Mustang lead stallion being expelled from his band. It was heartbreaking. That's the definition of being alone. It's true. In herd environments, some horses can get booted right out. Humans get booted out all the time. We just accept it. It's weird. Shouldn't. But many horses will boot out the humans and just go off and be horses. But yeah, some stallions, some mares, some foals, they get kicked out of the herd. It's super alone time for sure, unless they can fight to get back in. But if not, they're living a lonely life. They might kind of hang out on the outskirts and hopefully be able to hang out and stay safer. But that's about it. Susan's here. What's going on? We're talking about all kinds of horsey stuff, Susan. Chitty chat and some Q&A. Lena is the one that to Graham. Susan, I'm not sure what you mean. Lena is a pretty cool horse. Okay, Dee Dee. Hello, Dee Dee. Regarding draw, bonding, my grandmother used to say everybody wants to be noticed. Her dogs, cats, horses, cattle, even chickens always came to her, followed her. So did I. That's an interesting, I know I kind of turned into a statue for a second there. Everybody wants to be noticed. Healthy horses, mentally healthy horses, generally love attention. So if you specifically go to them and offer them kindness and friendship and maybe some food or treats or something like that, absolutely. They want to be noticed and looked at and paid attention to. And if they're talking to you, they're saying, hey, you come over here, scratch my butt, like Lena. And you do that and you communicate back that you've heard them. I like that. Everybody wants to be noticed. True. True. Abia's here. Hello, Abia. Tiny bit once in a while I do. My fairy uses animal cookies. They dissolve quickly in case they get stuck in the throat, and you can give one to them and one for you. Yeah. That's good. How nice. 20 thumbs up. David's paying attention to thumbs up. Thanks, buddy. 20 is good. Animal cookies. Yeah, there's just those little things. Those little cookies that you give to kids. I have a funny story, actually, as you say that. I was in the hospital when I was a kid for a stomach problem. I don't remember exactly what it was, but they essentially had to pump my stomach. So it made me very, very hungry. And somebody had brought me this little box, and it looked like a bus. It's a box. It looked like a bus. It looked like a London bus. But inside was a bunch of cookies, like these animal cookies, probably shaped like a bus or something, or a car. And I was so hungry. So when nobody was looking, I thought I would eat some. And it didn't even occur to me that as soon as I ate it, the stomach pump would just pump it out. So when somebody came back in the room, and the big jar was chewed up cookies. So That's an old story, people. It's old. Teresa's here. Hey, Teresa. You've how long have I been on this? Somebody tell me it's over an hour. I feel like I've been talking forever. Great comments, great questions, lots to talk about. We've been talking about boarding, hooves, health of horses, feeding, hay nets, shoeing, schooling for farriers and stuff, because I'm going to be getting into that pretty soon. Because I was here trying to work on this bench. I thought I'd try to work on it a little bit while chitty-chatting, but I haven't got anything done. But I will. So this will be ready pretty soon. And then I'll be getting on with all kinds of things. For anybody that does actually want to get into, this is not an old set yet, but I think even Pete would say that it's just a start. But Pete Ramey's got a set of DVDs that I bought probably 3 years ago now. I should rewatch these. Anyways, there's 13, 14, no wait, 13, 10, plus whatever's in here. What's in here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 18 DVDs. This guy put out a lot of material about hooves. And for the most part, it was quite good, but even he had some addendums that he wanted to add. Because it's a DVD set, he can't. So my set that I plan on making will be online, and I plan on providing updates as they go, so that there isn't a physical set to really think about. But even he had a couple of addendums in here. He says, the video that I took earlier on how I did blah 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 was not how I do it now. This is how I do it now. So that's what I mean. Like, this is an evolving world, but it is evolving to, for a while it literally just went up like that, but now it's sort of, well, they kind of went up and then down and crashed, and then a little bit up and then down and then up, and then now it's kind of progressing quite nicely up 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 with a little bit of a plateau. Kind of, we've reached a level where we have a good understanding of the how and why things happen. And then it's just, now it's a lot about being case by case. So big topic, very important, but I will cover more details another time. Oh, I got a friend who sent me a joke. Anybody want to hear it? It says, what's a ghost's favorite dessert? Blueberry pie with ice cream. With a screamy emoji face. Blueberry pie with ice cream. It's a good one. Thanks for the joke. Oh, geez. This is another one. She says, why was the baby ant confused? Because all of his uncles are ants. Not bad. Not bad. I've got a friend who sends me daily jokes. So anyway, so where was I? Back to YouTube for a second. Geez, Teresa, you've made it, and then you go and thank you very much. You're very welcome. I'm happy to try to share as much as I can with everybody. And the proudest ever says, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you love horses? Probably 10. Yeah, 9 or 10 for sure. Carla's here. Hey, Carla. Yeah, anyways, thank you, Teresa, as always. You're amazing. Oh, you were talking about the horses being able to talk to each other with looks, and the same lady did that to you. It's true. Some horses are definitely noisier than others, and I agree with the idea that there's some sort of possible telepathy that's happening. And actually, I will try to do a proper talk on this particular subject, but I was discussing the concept of checking in. I don't know if anybody's ever used this phrase before, but I like it. It makes a lot of sense. That's how I feel. We're talking about when a horse checks in. And I say some people aren't even looking to see if their horse is checking in. And it can be for all kinds of things. It can be from literally, for me, walking across the yard and out of the corner of my eye or something, I look and I can see a horse trying to check in. So I'll go in and check in. It, you know, it, maybe it's real. I think it's real. It works for me. So maybe it's very real. You might be going to halter them and they just check in with you to say, the way you're haltering is a little rough. You pulled my mane, it's uncomfortable. You hit my ear by accident. I'm sure it's by accident. Did you hit my ear by accident? And they go to check in. Um, Maybe you're in a rush and they're worried. So they come and check in and say, hey, slow down or something. It's weird. But I think that the check in or the communication can be very strong with horses. And it really, really helps if we're listening for it, waiting for it, and hoping for it even, where you kind of are with them and you think, are you checking in? Are you checking in? Because I think they are too. I think that they are paying attention enough where we're around them when we look at them and we try to be with them and we go to touch them. And they're wondering, are you going to do something? And that's pretty much how they survive. So I think that that it makes a lot of sense. So, and yes, Susan, it's true. Lena is Lena's very obvious. The thing about Lena that I believe has counted so much is that the amount of times that she has requested something, which is very obvious. So, it's not like it's not the equivalent of going to a coffee shop and asking for a medium coffee with half milk and a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and then making sure it's this particular temperature. Those kinds of details don't really kind of come out in the communication. It might be just come over and scratch. But even that can be the beginning of a communication pattern that can be very rewarding and useful and can carry much further. So, Monique says it's snowing in Calgary. That's nuts. I can't believe it's been cold today though. Actually, I'm inside a little bit more today because to be outside, you can see your breath today. And it was a little bit windy for a bit. I think we've had a cold front kind of sneak in from the east going west. It was a bit windy earlier and rainy. So, and it was a little bit warmer this morning. Teresa was watching the horses talk back and forth with their ears and body language. That's cool. As we do here, we observe horses all the time and watch them chitty chat. And it's fascinating. I find it fascinating. It's really, really cool stuff. So good for you. That's great. David's got to go for a walk. Take Pike out. Yeah, I can imagine he's staring at you like, well, when are we going out, buddy? So Susan says 1 to 10 when she loved Jen. Definitely a 10. Are you kidding? Catch up again soon with you later, Graham. Good. Let me know, buddy. Talk to me later. David will be coming by. He was off checking out Icelandic horses. I look forward to hearing about that. So anyways, I think I've gone on for quite some time. I really wanted to talk about some of the questions that have come through, especially about hooves, where I started this conversation, and about learning for yourself and how and why and how other people perceive it and how you might perceive it based on how other people perceive it. I think it's a very good thing to know as much as you can, even if you are in the UK or Germany and you can't actually do something. Being educated in the area can be very, very beneficial. I've had plenty, like I said, I've had plenty of people, I show up, they've asked me to come, somebody's recommended me or something, and they say, the last person was doing this and it made me really nervous and I didn't like it. Or in another case, actually a recent case, I had a brand new client, and or actually the horse is new, the client is not, or the actual owner. And the actual owner was always not quite happy with the way things were being trimmed up. And so she would go and modify the trim after to what she thought was right, but wasn't willing to do all the other work and stuff like that. But as long as it got kind of close. But that's because she has a huge education in the area and many other areas. So now I'm I'm the person who goes in and deals with doing all the stuff, and she was quite happy with that. So there's plenty of times where, you know, um, being educated can have you, you know, maybe if you don't want to do the whole thing, you have somebody do most of it, or even if they do some, and you kind of think, I don't think that's good enough. I need somebody who's got a little bit more education. Another person, I mean, it's like I said, I probably got about 100 stories. Um, but another one where this person was trained off of another person that's kind of local, and she says, you know, there's just not enough experience in that person. They are trying to learn a lot, but there's not enough experience to deal with the problem that my horse is having, which actually is a little bit of a specialty problem, um, which I'll try to cover in the future. But same deal, you know, um, by knowing enough to know that something's not quite right, totally cool. I recommend it to everybody. You don't have to be somebody who wants to trim your horse, but you can be somebody who knows enough that if you were to trim them, you'd know you were messing up or getting it right, um, or just to be that person that takes care of the whole horse, your whole horse, outside of veterinarian surgery stuff or something. So hopefully that's kind of interesting for you guys. David, you're still here. I thought you were walking your dog. Yes, Carla, I hope your business venture is going well. Um, it's always exciting. Slow but good, she says. All right. Okay. All right, I got to get on with things. I really do need to clean up this area a little bit more. I was going to do it while I talked, but that's not happening. So I'm going to continue with this. I've got a couple of videos coming. I did a little bit this morning, and I've got a couple more ideas in my head. So for everybody that's kind of been waiting, like the people asking what's going on, that should be there this evening, and we'll go from there. Just continue on as usual. Everything's going great here, just so you know. Everything's going very well. Very productive, busy. Anyhow, so that's it for now. Thanks everybody who's popped in and said hello, and great questions, great comments. Participation is terrific. I love it. The community here is fantastic. For everybody that I haven't commented back to on your comments, I'm trying to. I promise to everybody, like I've always said, I do try to respond to every single comment that comes through because I believe it's worth it. Thanks for commenting. Thanks for saying nice things. Thanks for coming in with questions. It's a great community that's steadily growing. We're going nothing but up, which is terrific. So, all right, guys, that's it for now. We got some good questions today. Really appreciate that. So I'm gonna leave it at that. I'll see you guys again real soon. I gotta come all the way over there, turn the camera off. Yeah, we'll talk about this stuff in another video. If you guys have any further questions, send them in the comments as usual, and we'll go from there. That's that. So have yourselves a good morning, evening, night, afternoon, wherever you are on the planet. I'll see you guys again soon.